To start this project, you will need a photo of yourself placed onto a square canvas in Procreate. You can do that by importing the photo and dropping it onto a new layer. It should do that automatically. Use the magic wand tool in the top left corner to desaturate your image and to brighten the picture if necessary. Now select the selection tool. It looks like a ribbon in the top left corner again, and once you start drawing, you'll notice that it will make a dotted line around your image. What I'm going to be doing is isolating this from the background. So when you start drawing, it'll create a dotted line. If you make a mistake, you can tap with 2 fingers on the screen and it will go back 1 step. So don't feel like you have to do this all in one go. So let me just complete the outline. Please make sure that you go back to the beginning, and then you can press copy and paste, and it should create a new layer with your isolated subject. So here I'm resizing the image. The problem with having a picture that's cut in half like this is that you'll have a straight line at the bottom of your image to deal with. So I purposefully brought that to the bottom of the canvas and enlarged the photo so that it makes better use of the space. I've selected the technical pen to start drawing my patterns. Make sure that you're drawing on a new layer. Open up the layers panel to see what layers you are on. You can shift layers around by selecting the layer and holding, and you can then move the layer. This allows you to draw behind the image, and you can reduce the opacity of the layer on top so that you can see what your pattern looks like underneath. If you draw a line and hold at the end of the line, you can create a straight line pretty easily. Now remember, a pattern involves repeating elements. So here I'm repeating lines. Once I start crossing lines, then I can get a repetition of shapes. Bring the opacity back up to 100% for the layer on top of the patterns, and you can start to fill in the patterns. See how the pattern interacts with the image of your face on top. So here I'm choosing a palette. A palette gives you a range of colors that work well. They complement one another and they've been predetermined. And so I've just selected the palette to work with so that I can choose the colors directly from that palette. It saves me some time from choosing new colors. You can duplicate layers, and this can help you to create another pattern pretty quickly. So here I am choosing a different palette of colors to fill in the new layer with. Once you start getting more layers, you may find it necessary to label those layers so that you don't get lost. In fact, it's wise to create layers that you can have as backups. So I have labeled one original so that I can remember that that's the one that I started with, and I'll uncheck it so that it doesn't show up in my artwork. It will serve as a backup copy. What you'll have to do is to merge your face layer with the pattern layer, so you can pinch the 2 layers together that you wish to merge. Make sure that your face layer is on top. And here I am just testing out the animation. Now when you go to animated GIF, you will find that you will have to adjust the frames per second so that it's easier on the eyes. That tool can be found in the wrench icon as shown. Now I've discovered that I wanted to add another layer, so instead of getting lost in all of these layers that I have already, I'm going to label another layer as my original. You can go backwards to separate the layers that you merged previously. And so this is where a lot of your work can come together. You'll be doing a lot of work within the layers panel to start thinking about your animation as you build it up. Play around with how layers can be adjusted. So in this manner, you can bring patterns out in front of your face layer, and as you change that layer, think about how you can allow that layer to interact with your face layer in a more creative manner. When you think about how layers can merge together, I want you to start playing around with the layer blending tool. You can find that in the drop-down selection of the layer that you wish to blend. And in this case here, you can play around with the different layer blending modes available. I've decided to try working with the color blending mode, which gives me a nice subtle effect. You can reduce the opacity if it's too obvious or if it's too harsh of an effect. And this is what I'm satisfied with. So you can see how the layers come together now. I've got all my layers checked that I wish to show up in the animation, and then I will test it out again. So now it becomes more dynamic and interesting just by adding an additional layer, and one that interacts with my face.